Hello, everybody. I'm Yuheng. Today, I'm going to present my case study titled Ethical Analysis of Amazon's AI Hiring System. This case centers on a critical issue in modern technology. How, despite the algorithmic decision-making designed carefully to avert it, the effect of creating or even exacerbating of ethical issues, known as algorithmic unfairness, still exists. In this presentation, the aim is to unravel the implicit issues involved in Amazon's AI system with a keen focus on its contribution in propagating discrimination on gender lines in the recruiting process. This problem is not only about a problem of creating one tool, it reflects deeper, more systemic issues inherent in how we incorporate ethics into the writing of both AI technologies that are in their own right increasingly penetrative in human lives. The use of AI has become prevalent in recruiting, wherein organizations try to augment the efficacy of their hiring process in terms of speed, sensibility, and justice, with the assistance of screening thousands of resumes within several seconds. The AI got the job as a neutral link that overcomes problems of unconscious bias by human recruiters. Nevertheless, a possibility inherently exists that the results of the AI system will carry the bias embedded in the source information, serving as its input. When more intelligent machines come into play, Amazon's hiring AI becomes even more obvious. Instead of minimizing bias, the algorithms were trained in such a way that they unduly favor gender generalizations. In my talk today, I will highlight what went wrong, revealing deeper ethical rules that were breached. And I will draw attention to general implications for the design of ethically and equitably AI-based systems. Amazon has been working on their prototype AI hiring system since 2014, though no exact number of years from its inception was stated by the company. With this objective, machine assistants were developed to collaborate with recruiters by processing in-depth job applications more rapidly and effectively. The model absorbed data over a 10-year period from which every aspect of an effective hiring decision was known, and these were success resumes of the applicants who passed the filtration, such as sport experience, eco-responsibility, and education background, which poorly matched with females or gender imbalanced. Due to this, the AI quickly grasped the band of male-dominated terms, experiences, and educational backgrounds of top performers and brought up that said. The model started undervaluing those resumes that bore the phrases women's chess club or reference to women college, saying that only in 2018 did the company shut it down. It was never witnessed by other users. However, for many people, it became a known warning about the use of AI and the worries pertaining to this tool in automatic decision-making in places like hiring. To understand what went wrong, we need to quickly check the design of the system by looking at it from a very small angle. This is typical for the majority of machine learning tools, which used historical data to isolate success achievements. After that, it tried to transform learned patterns to newly presented resumes, and classified those which were similar to previous hired candidates. Because the data itself depicted the gender inequality across the board, it internally entrenched it and generated the same historical biases. This highlights the view in AI ethics that algorithms not only depict the world in its current state, often they confirm the wrongs of history if not thoroughly recognized. The very fact that the underlying dataset included gender terms as unfavorable exhibits this issue because it shows the danger of dependent solely on data without engaging critical investigation. This system, however, tended to reproduce some very flawed data as illustrated by the problems of the previous decade. First, the most intentional forms of the second problem were women's bias. As a result, female candidates were systematically downgraded, and those who had experiences outside traditionally constructed masculinized career paths faced an uphill challenge. To complement this, it lacked explanatory detail. The applicant was not clear about the decision-making basis or how her resume would be analyzed and screened by the AI interviewer. Thirdly, power was given to the AI similar to this, which could make the human recruiters subordinate, given that they might be over-reliant on the AI's rankings and recommendations. The fourth thing to be highlighted is of the absence of real answerability. This left a gap if a competent applicant was selected out unfairly. No accountability system emerged for a response to this case or to indicate who committed such an injustice. This leads to real queasiness concerning which technology AI systems should rely, especially in critical business decisions like employment. The next step is to use the utilitarianism lens, which evaluates actions through the lens of producing their outcomes, in particular, their consequences. There must be some kind of direct choice. Amazon made to deploy this particular AI technology in pursuit of efficiency and accuracy in the generally human hiring process. Still, the downside of this was that talented women were apparently disqualified from job opportunities. The reputational credibility of the company was affected, and the public acceptance of AI in recruiting also declined, while the overall joy called the net utility was increasingly diminished. Utilitarians could argue that this system is not ethical, since the suffering, especially the long-standing ones associated with social inequality, became greater than the success. The previous step was turned into another step, now that of deontological ethics, which studies moral values involved with rules and principles instead of considering the result to the society. In that sense, just relationships and recognition of people's dignity are one of the highest moral duties in deontology. The system is then similar to the violation of deontological ethics, given that Amazon's model considers gendered proxies over clients displayed at their systems, towards organizational goals. According to Kantian ethics, the violation of morality occurs with this action regardless of the achieved success. This system overlooked the norm of equal regard and neutral treatment and stood in breach of deontological rule, making it legitimize an unethical system. Besides discrimination and privacy, there is additionally surveillance and autonomy that stands in more issues raised. AI algorithms analyze personal data resumes, studies, history, memberships, etc., without candidates having any clue about the treatment of these data. The assessment is done by concealed algorithms, and individuals are left without knowledge or means to comprehend and even challenge how they are being judged. This is consistent with Claire Boyne's argument on AI systems, where users are offered less authority over their own emotions, as based on the fact that the machine has no feeling, but on the contrary affects their life directly, i.e., those who just universally, with Claire Boyne argument. A machine surveils individuals while obscuring judgment with no transparent and meaningful process. However, the impact of this flaw was not limited only to single resumes. Women with the right qualifications may have inadvertently missed out on valuable career opportunities, while internally the company risked dissatisfaction among others as a result of this poorly administered system. Wider, this case responded to and shook the public trust in AI systems and attracted the demands for intensified government AI control. Most importantly, it also put the digital industry face to face with the question it raises. Can we still stay honest with the data-connected systems if they truly characterize our society in the past? The problem isn't only the evaluation of the hiring algorithm. Similar prejudices have been encountered in facial recognition software, criminal case algorithms, and scoring systems for loans. It is probably the first early warning of the levels of ethical problem of AI application. What could have been done to avoid this failure? Some rhythm stuck. First of all, it should be the recognition of bias while creating the dataset, before training an AI neural network. Developers must go through the datasets and investigate for disarrays and historical discrimination. Secondly, it would be required that the biases on the pre-deployment test take place in order to avoid the issue of disproportionate impacts on gender, race, and other groups. Thirdly, a structure for human-machine teaming should be upheld to finalize the hiring process in which AI has been excluded as the sole decision-making authority. Fourthly, It is necessary to ensure that open evaluation metrics are provided to the candidates so that they know how their applications are processed. Fifthly and lastly, put an ethical accountability framework in place so as to facilitate fixing moral accountability measures in the event negative consequences are realized. Both of these are ethical approaches that situate fairness and justice into technical changes. Concluding from my assessment, I suggest 5 main ethical foundation values for every AI hiring tool. Fairness, discard or correct the datasets of biased images. Next, hire and evaluate candidates preferably based on the skills which are relevant for the job, and at last proceed on proxies like gendered language. Transparency guarantee that applicants are aware of the standards and the mechanisms which the decision is based upon. Accountability software engineers and companies should take responsibility for consequences. According to them, it is actually important to come up with a way to question an unfair decision. Autonomy allows both applicants and recruiters to properly understand, question, and hang the sign of AI results. Privacy carefully map out the collection of information to what you really need, and take precautionary steps to secure people's data from abuse. These ethics and their implementations are in the right track alongside ethical standards discussed in research literature and in the new legislation known as the EU AI Act and NYC Local Law 144. Building this on the difficulty I faced had made me realize just how much is involved in designing an ethically responsible AI framework. Initially, I believed AI could be useful for reducing the bias, since there would be no subjective judgment when it comes to decision-making. I now understand AI would lack safeguards, and as such, it usually perpetuates bias that it was designed to lessen. This refers to epistemic exclusion. As a concept, it is the erasure of the knowledge of marginalized demographic. Data-oriented systems excusing this by not embedding these experiences into data collection or system design. Ethical reflection, as such, is a necessity, in the sense that it has to be incorporated in every step of AI's development and designing process. In the same way we consider the system performance metrics, we need to think the moral metrics as well. Is it fair for all people? Does it uphold the rights? Does it promote justice? Let me, at this point, lead a discussion with the following questions to the audience now. Does choosing human-faced entries labeled as human shirt or human suit reflect biases of one going to hire, as it shows discretion regarding bodily representation with respect to gender and professionalism? Is it proper to allow AI without human supervision or involvement to make serious life decisions only? What kinds of legal mechanisms and frameworks should be put in place in order to hold companies liable and/or responsible for potentially biased AI application? These are not questions intended to remain purely academic for the future. The legal regulation and experience of AI in the artificial intelligence era are being shaped by them nowadays. Thanks to everyone for paying attention to me. I hope this presentation will not be just seen as an essence of the AI technical performance, but rather of so continuous developing social responsibility. The Amazon case teaches us that smart systems are not always just systems. If we want to create these algorithms and software truly for the people, fairness, accountability, and humanity must be optimized from each line of code and every dataset. This means that we will be able to create not just intelligent systems, but ethical ones as well.